Okay, so I was gone for 2 weeks, and what I did was put my sourdough starters in the refrigerator. So we got home last night, and I took them out of the fridge last night to come back to room temperature. So they're not going to be active. They're going to be very, very opposite, deactive. Very, very dormant. So they actually don't smell super sour, which is great. So when you put them in the refrigerator, that slows down the time for them to activate. So right before I put them in, I fed them both. Here's the other one. Now this one does have some things on the top. See that? So I'm afraid this one is no longer good, unfortunately. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just discard that one. Let me mix this one up, make sure there's nothing in that one. And this is why I always have two, because if something happens to one, you have the other one, right? So if I look at, and I'm glad both of them didn't do this. Yeah, so this one is still good. So what I'm gonna do is grab my other jar from up here. I have 2 jars that I alternate with these 2 jars, so I always have 2 clean jars on hand that I only use for sourdough, and that's just in case when I wash them, you know, there's anything left in here. I don't want to use it for anything else, but it's not a big deal because I do wash them very well. You have to wash them very well, but I don't know, it's just something I do, and that way I always have one available. So this one I'm just going to dump out completely, soak that jar, and that'll be used for the next time I change jars. I probably change jars like once a month, and the only reason, you don't have to do it, the only reason is because I don't like how they look. So see how mine's all coated and just gunky? So yeah, that's the only reason I do that. So all you have to do now is take some of your good starter and put it in here, and that's going to make another starter, and you do not need a whole lot. I make a mess when I do this, so I am actually going, well, let's try this. I don't really, we try not to use metal on this, so I'm going to use a plastic. I always use a rubber spatula because after you clink against the jar so many times, it's bound to crack, so that's the reason I don't use that. Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. So I just use paper towels. You cannot wash this down your drain. So I am going to take, I don't know what this, my measurement wore off. Oh, a 1/4 cup, that's what I thought it was. I don't know, it looks like there might be a little bit of black mold on the top of this one in the jar, so I might have to restart my entire sourdough journey. Unfortunately, yeah, now that I'm looking at it, we're gonna have to restart our whole journey. So 2 weeks was just too long in the refrigerator for them, apparently. You are supposed to go 1 week in the refrigerator and feed, but I was gone for 2. So if you look, you see that black in there, that is mold. A lot of people say the black mold in here, as long as it's like not in the sourdough, you could, no, I don't do that, okay? We don't do that. Now the really, really, really bad mold is when it's pink. I don't see any pink, but I'm not going to chance it. You know, that's how botulism thrives. And though it was in the refrigerator, I'm not going to chance this. So that means I'm going to get an all new scraper. This one will just get thrown in there and washed. And we're going to start over. I do not measure, okay? I don't measure anything. So I'm going to grab my other jar. Way up here. Ah. There it is. Way in the back of the cabinet. And we're going to start 2 new jars, and we're going to see in a week if we have new sourdough. And I just use regular flour and water. I don't use any of that fancy flour. I have done it that way before. It makes no difference, okay? To me, it doesn't. So I'm just gonna grab my quarter cup and just, I'm not gonna even do a full quarter cup, probably a half of that, just to get a good, strong base going. You don't really need a lot. Each day you're gonna add to it for the next week. I'm gonna actually add a little bit more to that one. My sourdough got gross. It molded in the fridge. I know, we didn't feed it. Then I just, let me grab another spatula. Sure. Okay. And then I just use a pitcher of filtered water. And just a little bit in each one. And I do it based on consistency of it. I like mine to be thick because I feel like mine grows better in my environment when it's thicker. So I am going to have to add more flour. You can use the whole wheat flour. Eventually I'll probably switch to whole wheat. You can use the, what is that called? I think people have used bread flour before. That's not necessary. Is it whole wheat that I used to use? What's in here? Yeah, it was whole wheat because I have a jar in there. They're fine. Oh, I need to, that reminds me, I need to flip my, oh, it's stuck. I need to flip my garlic. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to do it because, so this is my lemon extract and my, no, that was my orange. This is my lemon. This is my lemon. Lemon and orange extract. I flip those every so often, and my vanilla extract. Make sure your lids are on tight. I have a new one going, and you can see that definitely needs to be flipped. Or at least stirred. I'm just going to leave that one stirred for now. So anyways, I digress, but this is all about homesteading. This is what we do. So here's your reminder if you are doing any of these. Okay. Make sure you flip them. It's important. So anyways, my honey garlic is flipped and all my extracts are flipped. Back to the sourdough. I like mine really thick. I feel like it works best. So a good thickness in there. And that's all you need, okay? You don't need a whole bunch. You don't need a fancy starter. Once this gets really strong here in probably 2 or 3 weeks, then I'll start dehydrating it and see how that goes. I'll dehydrate it and then I'll learn how that process works to rehydrate it. And then I'll start selling it. A lot of you said you were interested in purchasing it, but you can see now that I only do good quality things. I don't chance anything. Now this one is a little more thick than the other one, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, so that's it. That's all you have to do. So now every day for the next week, I'm going to add to it and not discard. You want to build that strong base, and that's why you only start with a little bit. Mine is thicker. I think mine works better that way. This one is a little more runny than that one was, but that's okay. Make sure my hair doesn't get in there. And then I just use these. I got these on Amazon in a kit. They work really well. Keeps the dust and the cat hair and all the things out, right? And then I just put them on my counter. That's it. I probably did about a quarter cup of flour, little under. It wasn't an eighth, but it wasn't a quarter cup. So somewhere in there, and then I just added water until I got the consistency I like. That's how I've always done it. That's how I started this last batch that I've even successfully baked with. So now to discard these old ones that are no longer good, I just take a bag, make sure there's no holes in it, because this will smell up your trash can. So, I mean, it's cool if you just do that, but I just put them upside down in here, and I let it all run out. And then I will use the spatula, and I'll scrape it down, and then I'll soak them. And then I will soak them for about a day, throw that outside. Sometimes I'll water my plants with it, but I don't have many plants right now, so I just throw it outside, honestly. And then I'll add more water, and I'll just keep, like, basically rinsing it and throwing it outside until it's ready to be washed. Like all the little tiny crevices and things in there, you just make sure you wash them out real good with soap and water, and then I let them air dry, and then I make sure that they're super dry before I use them. Usually it's, you know, a good week, so they're dry by then. So this will all, we'll let gravity do its thing. I'll go to inside this bag here, and I just throw it in the trash. It will smell kind of sour, like really gross yeast. That's what it is. If you throw it in your trash, so fair warning on that. And that's why I do this. If I do large amounts, if I'm just discarding and I know my trash is about to go out, I'll just do it straight into my, I'll discard straight into my trash can, in my trash bag. But yeah, you don't ever throw this down the sink. Don't ever rinse it down the sink. Even when I soak it, I don't dump that down the sink. I dump it straight outside. So fair warning. I always say that. I always tell you guys that, because I don't want your pipes clogged. Okay, just slightest amount can do it. So that's it. That is the update on the trip and coming back to dead sourdough starter. Unfortunately, it happens. I had a feeling it would. You, even in the refrigerator, you're supposed to feed them once a week. And I just didn't want to burden my house sitter with that. So, you know, she watered my plants and took care of my cats. That's enough, you know. She probably would have, because she actually started her own sourdough journey. So, yeah, that is that. So that is the reason that I put them, I leave them on my counter, because I feed them every day, or try to remember to. But then I see them. If I don't see them, if they're in the refrigerator, it's like out of sight, out of mind. And then my refrigerator gets full and they get pushed to the back. And then that happens, right? So that's the reason I do the counter method. But I figured I would chance it putting it in the fridge by leaving for 2 weeks. And it did not work out. It almost did if this one didn't have the black on the outside. The starter itself was okay, but I'm not going to chance those pores floating into there, you know, and creating that. So that's an update on all the things. I flipped my garlic. I flipped my what are they called? Oh my lord, I just had a brain fart, guys. Extracts, and then I restarted sourdough. So that's all. That's how easy it is. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching.